time for the second race of the weekend here in the Focus Cup, of course, and it will be the third race, technically speaking, of the season after race 2 at Donington Park was cancelled. It's been a fantastic championship thus far. It's been very interesting, and of course the last race, Ian Mitchell was able to take victory earlier on in the day ahead of Lewis Clark. Again, that was in very different conditions. It was a little bit tricky, a little bit wet, a lot colder, with some tricky lines. Now it's perfectly dry out there, and certainly might be classified as a little bit easier to get these cars round the circuit. Here's a look at the starting grid then, with Simon Ward there on pole position, and Simon Walton alongside Gary Mitchell and John Baker on row number 2. Back there on row number 3, it will be Lewis Clark alongside Ian Mitchell, of course, the two that were battling for victory in the previous race. And it'll be Simon Watts and Leo Paniatau starting from 8th position, who retired from the previous race after being completely dominant. Then we'll jump down into the ZTEC category, where we'll have Seven Christian alongside Darren Rickaby, Ian Graham and Adam Winter starting from 12th position. Ali Topley, who's been the championship leader in the dominant force in the ZTEC category, alongside Mark McCann. A great battle between those two for victory in the previous race, with Richard Hall and Ian Howard starting there in 16th spot. Then we'll get Craig Ballantyne and Richard Wynn, with Andrew Weiss and Simon Langford in the 4-7-4, starting just ahead of Sarah Hall and Mike NG. Cameron FM and Matt Croft will be starting from down there to the 24th position. Of course, then it's Katrina Gray, Abby Walton, Ben Pemberton and Tim Harrington, with a couple of issues in qualifying and a couple of issues actually in the last race as well. One of the many drivers who succumbed to some issues in the previous race. 3 retirements, Ben Pemberton, Tim Harrington, as I said there, and of course Leo Paniatau, all retiring from the previous race. I think our focus in this race will be once again towards Paniatau, who's the 4th of these ST300s right at the front of the field, as the marshals try and get everyone into position. But yeah, we're really looking towards Leo Paniatau, if he's able to come through and challenge once again. Was looking really dominant in the early stages of the previous race. Also to that fantastic battle between Ian Mitchell and Lewis Clark. We'll be seeing more of that, of course, in the ZTECs. It's that focus of Mark McCann and Ali Topley we'll be looking at. 15 minutes to be put onto the clock. A couple of people out of line in the background, but I think the marshals are pretty satisfied with where they are, and waiting for the green flag to be waved and the starting board to be prepared. There we go. We've still got a little bit of movement. Start delayed, you can see there at the top of your screen. So the starter has delayed this. As I think, like I said, there's a few people out of position. You can see Langford, you can see Mike and G here on the left, basically in the middle. I'm thinking someone's been put out of position and now they need to reverse some people and put them back to where they should be. Did obviously see, going back into the previous race, we saw Ben Pemberton having a bit of a moment late on in the race, and a bit of a slide out through what is a second corner, and unfortunately retired there and then. Was absolutely fuming inside the car, really not happy with that one, and hopefully it'll be a much better race for the JCB branded yellow Focus right at the background of shot. So this is a frustrating time in a sense for quite a few of the drivers out there, as they are kind of left in their cars. They know the start's delayed. Thankfully it's not a boiling hot summer out there, but alas, it's not exactly comfortable for them from a mental perspective, as they try and get themselves ready to go racing and in the right mental position. Ian Mitchell, I'm sure, will be racing his way through the order, trying to take back-to-back victories and take the clean sweep here at Silverstone, as we will be rolling again. I believe it's a second formation formation lap rather. I'm sure this will take time off of the race, by the way, so what is a 15-minute race might be even shorter, and I believe that is courtesy to a few cars being out of position lower down the order. A reminder, by the way, of course, back in Donington, it was Lewis Clark, Leo Paniatau and Spencer Fortag, the top 3 in the ST category, and then in the ZTECs it was Ali Topley, Jamie Good and Mark McCann. Of course, in the race earlier on in the day, it was Ian Mitchell taking the victory in the ST category, with Lewis Clark in behind, and then John Baker in third position. In the ZTECs, it was Mark McCann, Ali Topley and Adam Winter, the top 3 of that category. So they'll be rolling around the circuit once more before they'll be placed back onto the grid. To be fair, with the time has been saved throughout the day by these races going slightly earlier than expected, we could actually see the full 15 minutes of the race run regardless. It's more about fuel and stuff in the cars. I'm sure they've not only put 15 minutes, what would be effectively whatever the race distance is, for 15 minutes, that amount of fuel into the car. I think it'll be slightly faster than the previous race, which was run at 13 laps. Probably sounds about right. Yeah, they wouldn't put 13 laps of fuel in the car and then gone, right, let's send them out there. They're not running them that close. Won't make as much of a difference in a Clio as it would in, say, a Formula 1 car over a full race distance. So you might as well stick the extra couple of litres in. So they could potentially do the full 15 minutes. And in fact, I think, yeah, why not? It's a lot of fun racing, so I want to see all of it, to be perfectly honest, as they'll work their way background and hopefully avoid the same issues as they did on the previous attempt to move their way into the starting grid. So once again, Simon Wall onto the pole position with Simon Walton, Gary Mitchell, John Baker, Lewis Clark, Ian Mitchell, Simon Watts and Leo Paniatau, the top 8 drivers there in the ST category, with Seven Christian and Darren Rickaby starting from the front row of the ZTEC category. Row number 3 in the ZTEC category is where you'll see Ali Topley and Mark McCann, the 2 that battled for victory. Adam Winter, of course, who was 3rd. And that will be starting, obviously, from 4th in the category. So just ahead of Ali Topley and Mark McCann. Let's see how successful we are in finding our slots, obviously, with it being a much larger grid than, well, I say much larger. We do run normally quite large grids in the Focus Cup Championship, but still, it is a 28-car grid. Getting everyone into their respective positions can sometimes be a little bit troublesome for the marshals. Not exactly they're dealing with 14 of them, and it's quite easy to be like, you're out of position, move back into it. There we go. Confirmation to the marshals to move a little bit forward, and this looks a little bit more promising. So 15 minutes will be put onto the clock here in the Focus Cup Championship. The green flag, I'm pretty sure, is about to be waved as we're all definitely in position. Can Ian Mitchell win once again? Will it be Simon Waugh? Will it be Lewis Clark? We are racing here in the Focus Cup Championship. Not a good start from Leo Paniatau from 8th position in the ST category. Straight to the outside. Simon Waugh from pole positions dropping backwards as Mitchell works his way through. Gary Mitchell through into, well, potentially even the race lead from 3rd as they head their way down the hill and into the second corner on the track. But it will be the number 3 of Simon Walton hanging on to the race lead. Howard, unfortunately, a bit of a problem there in the number 37. One of those ZTEC cars dropping right the way back. Out wide goes Simon Waugh, trying to find some way around the outside, I guess. You can see Paniatau's working the way up the order. And whilst we're seeing a quite calm start in the ST category, it's clearly not quite as calm down there in the ZTECs. A couple of issues right from the off in that ZTEC category. So it's Simon Walton leading the race. Gary Mitchell then has moved up from 3rd position into 2nd. You've got the number 10 of John Baker, who's gone from 4th up to 3rd. And then it's Lewis Clark, who's gone from 5th to 4th. So it's the only driver who's dropped down the order, or has changed really in the ZTEC category in that top group, is that power-maxed car there of Simon Waugh. You do have Paniatau up past Watts, and that's really the only other major switch. So looking back then down in the ZTECs to understand exactly what's happening back here, is Rickaby leading from Christian at the moment in that ZTEC category, with Graham in behind in the number 27 car. Big look to the inside coming in there from the number 10 of John Baker. Can't quite get that car right down the inside of Gary Mitchell, and now might have the number 1 car, the 2-time champion of Lewis Clark, knock at the door to potentially come through in that blue Focus, trying to get through and up now into what would be 3rd position. Looks to the inside, it's getting covered off there from the number 10 of Baker. Can't quite make that one stick. Paniatau though did. Paniatau is now up into 5th position after making a double move, getting past Ian Mitchell as well as Waugh as well. So moving up the order pretty comfortably is Paniatau, as once again Lewis Clark closing in, filling in the mirrors of John Baker. Bit of a gap has appeared at the front of the field though, as Walton has pulled clear by 1.1 seconds at the moment. Confirmation there of Paniatau working up a couple of positions, and confirmation of Rickaby leading from Christian and from Graham. I believe it will be Rickaby's first victory in the Focus Cup if he's able to take it out all the way to the checkered flag in that Z-Tech category in the number 13 car. But you can see there the gap is extremely close behind, and I think 7 Christian might be trying to find a way through here. Out wide goes Rickaby with the rookie plates on. Out wide, bit of a slide, and was unable to keep to the racetrack completely, but still is able to keep on to first place in the Z-Tech category. Then you've got 7 Christian. Then you've got Graham, of course, in the 27 car. Ian Graham trying to throw themselves into the mix before we get the 99 of Richard Hall. And then the long wait back. Obviously in that category you've got Adam Winter in there, of course, who finished in 3rd position in the category. Actually, I don't think there's been that many switches within that category a little bit further down, apart from Ali Topley, who's dropped back to 23rd overall and 15th in class. So Ali Topley, the driver, who's finished in 1st and in 2nd place in the 2 races that they've had thus far in the 2025 season, dropping right the way down the order, unfortunately. Not 100% sure as to what that's for, but clearly some of the dramas that we're seeing in the Z-Tech category has come a cropper for Ali Topley. There's Lewis Clark dealing with the defence from Paniatau. There's your race leader in the Z-Techs. That's Rickaby defending from 7 Christian, who might be a little bit quicker coming out through the opening corner. Being dragged along is Ian Graham as well in the green car in 3rd position. Trying to fill the mirrors goes the 11, looking left, looking right once again, tries to find a way down the inside into Maggots as they head back out onto the Wellington straight. Plant that throttle down as hard as you can, and that's exactly what Graham's doing, as he's keeping right up to the rear end of 7 Christian. There could be a move coming down here. You've got the race winner in the previous one as well, closing up the number 64 of McCann. Mark McCann trying to, again, take another victory here, closing right the way in to the group of the top 3, having cleared on this lap Winter as well. So we're up to 13th overall, 4th in category goes Mark McCann, and covering the front end of 7 Christian's car in a cloud of black smoke goes the number 13 of Rickaby. It kind of feels like we might see a change fairly soon, because right on the rear end you don't get much racing much closer than this, with 5 minutes down on the race, 10 minutes left to go. There's a look to the inside, once again can't quite do it, once again looks to the inside though. Just trying to put off Rickaby, you have to say. 7 Christian is trying every sort of mental game at the moment to try and complete some form of move, but not able to find that way past at the moment. Onto the brakes, downshifting, trying to get the car stabilised. McCann looking down the inside of Ian Graham. Mark McCann trying to get up onto the podium in the Z-Tech category once again. Of course, started out the season on the podium, I do believe. Certainly did, with 3rd position. So it's 3rd, 1st, now going for another 3rd if Mark McCann can do it. Back up the order though, as Paniatau has got past. Wow, Paniatau's flying this race. He's got past Clark. That must have been on the previous lap. It's now got past John Baker. I said keep your eye on Paniatau after the disappointment of the previous race and the retirement that came with, as they now get past Pemberton. A bit of a moment up ahead for our race leader, as it was Walton trying to get around the outside there. Paniatau is up now into 2nd position in this race. Not sure as to what's happened to Gary Mitchell, who's now dropped back behind Ian Mitchell, and is now running in 6th position in class. There comes a look to the inside from Lewis Clark, trying to find a way down the inside of John Baker for what is 3rd position now, the final spot on the podium in the ST category. But Paniatau is coming out of absolutely nowhere to potentially win here in the ST category, which would mean I think we would have 3 different winners in the first 3 races. Of course, it was Lewis Clark earlier on in the season. That was obviously back in Donington Park. It was Ian Mitchell earlier on in the day, and it could be Paniatau now as he looks to the inside, trying to get past Walton with a big move at the inside of the first corner. This could give the owners potentially to Baker or to Clark to maybe keep the speed up and work their way through into second position. It's Paniatau, the race leader, as John Baker sends one down the inside of Walton there at the second corner, going into Maggots, taking advantage of the opportunity. I think Lewis Clark might come through here. Simon Walton dropping backwards down, has been leading over the opening portion of the race, has led since the start, but halfway through, as we cross over that halfway point, it's now Paniatau at the front of the field, and it's now Baker in behind. But obviously the traffic's getting thick here, and it's really tricky to find your way into the mix. Mike NG, the next one for them to try and navigate to the outside goes Baker. Walton just squeezing Lewis Clark there as they head their way through, 2 rows deep as they try and find their way through. And look at that from Ian Mitchell, straight to the outside as he throws his way onto the rear end of Lewis Clark. Great battling here as Clark will defend from Mitchell heading down into the first corner. Still the battling keeping up high. It's very, very tight out there. I mean, it's really, really impressive there for Walton, who's just trying to hang on to that third spot at the moment. Of course, now dropping back into the clutches of Lewis Clark. It's really close. Mitchell there, straight through to the inside. Gary Mitchell as well there in the 44 car, trying to maybe navigate at the moment, trying to maybe find a way through, trying to find any opportunity to get back past Ian Mitchell at the moment. Ian Mitchell was looking down the inside of Lewis Clark. Obviously, you don't want to make any contact with Simon Walton. You'd be very much told off being the big boss of the championship as they head their way through Luffield now and back out onto the start-finish straight. Paniatau 1.9 seconds clear at the moment. He's gone. That's settled. That's all sorted now, surely, with 6 minutes left to go. Paniatau is running clear. Baker then in second position, having to maybe try and check out from Walton as Lewis Clark, the double champ, is starting to feel a little bit more pressure in this championship than he has done for the previous 2, it must be said. Paniatau might give him a good run for his money down towards the checkered flag of the championship. Obviously that's something to deal with in a very long distance time. Simon Walton pulls it up to the apex there at the second corner as they head their way through Maggots and then back out onto the Wellington straight. Clark's a little bit quicker off the corner, but it does seem as though the slipstream being gifted there to Walton is enough to hold firm. Back then into the Z-Tex, it's still Rickaby leading, but it is indeed McCann up now into second position. You can see McCann there with the YouTube sponsored car trying to go on the attack, looking to the inside. Here we go. This could be the move for the 64, looking to take back-to-back victories here at Silverstone, trying to get past the rookie as he fires it through down the inside. So close there was Rickaby on the cutback, trying to find a way through on McCann, but could not find a way back through. So Mark McCann, third position. First position could be another first position in the Z-Tech category here to open 2025. That's very impressive indeed. Beautiful cutback attempt there from Rickaby, judging it almost to the millimetre there, as you've got Simon Langford trying to get to the outside in the 474 car on Graham. Ian Graham now currently running in the fourth position, as of course you've got Rickaby ahead there in second position. There comes the 474 down the inside, so Langford's trying to send one. This is all in the lead group in the Z-Tech category, which at the moment is McCann, then it's Rickaby, then of course it is the number 11 of 7 Christian, then it's Ian Graham, then you've got the 474 of Simon Langford, and to be perfectly honest, they're also being joined in the fight as well by, I think it's Hall as well, just trying to chuck themselves into the mix. 7 Christian then to the inside of Rickaby. This has been attempted a couple of times earlier on in the race, trying to get past Rickaby down into Copse and turn 1. Rickaby with the outside line is going to send it in deep, trying to send it in as hard as he can to get around the outside. Bit of a slide there on the rear, and it's going to be a really slow exit from Rickaby. Had a double catch there, could be 4 wide as we head our way down towards Maggots to the inside line for the 11 of 7 Christian. Has completed that move, and Rickaby after the slide has been able to hang on at least to third. Hauled straight down the inside with a big move in the 99. That was aggressive, that was bold, and that was Richard Hall coming straight through. This is your race leader though in the ST category, Paniatau, trying to go every which way and then the other to try and clear this group for the race lead in the Z-Tech category with just 3 minutes left to go in the race. What crazy scenes here at Silverstone National. There's Paniatau to the inside of Rickaby. Obviously, you've got to be aware as to who's lapping and who's racing. Rickaby might be juggling with quite a few things in this category to try and make that stick. To the outside goes Paniatau on 7 Christian. Not going to open up the door for a potential attempt from Rickaby to maybe come back through on 7 Christian. I mean, I've got to say, plaudits to Rickaby to keeping to at least giving an effort there down at T1. Just the slide of the rear end, just let go ever so slightly on the exit of the corner. And then, just basically the snap was what allowed that one to switch back through. Looking back then, here's Lewis Clark trying to get through on Ian Graham and Richard Hall, Langford, and obviously dragging Ian and Gary Mitchell with them, still unable to get through on Simon Walton at the moment, who is your person that's kind of sitting on the final step of the podium. I was going to say he's a race leader. That was a little while ago for Simon Walton that he was the race leader. There's Lewis Clark getting up to the inside of Rickaby, and with what will be 2 laps left to go at the line, there's not many opportunities left for an attempted move coming in for Lewis Clark to try and get past Simon Walton, and he could be looking backwards towards Ian Mitchell and the attempted pass that could be coming from the rear end. Of course, Ian Mitchell victorious in the opening race of this weekend. There goes Gary Mitchell to the outside of 7 Christian. Try and get through. Oh god, it was kind of like laying alongside on the exit of the corner. There they pass the race leader Mark McCann in the Z-Tech category. 3 of them battling for the final, final step on the podium. It certainly is. Simon Walton's hanging on, Lewis Clark and Ian Mitchell. Big slide there on the way into the corner, and you can see the pitch of the car. The rear right not really making any contact with the road as they head their way through the first corner for Lewis Clark, who's trying to attack for the final step on that podium to try and keep podium streak alive. And there is the look to the inside. Simon Walton's gone out wide. Lewis Clark's committed to it. Ian Mitchell's also going to try and come through as well. They've also got a bit of lap traffic as well to deal with. Lewis Clark might get boxed in here as they try and work their way past the 21 there of Sarah Hall in the Z-Tech category. Still side by side for 3rd position. Lewis Clark to the outside. Going to fire it in as deep as he can here at Brooklyn to try and stay around the outside and give him the inside for Luffield. But Simon Walton defending like his life depends on it. It's not quite going to work though. Lewis Clark with the inside line at Luffield is exactly as he planned, and the double champ's going to do the job. Straight through then into 3rd position, and Ian Mitchell might come through as well. Now who does Lewis Clark give the slipstream to? He's going to give it a little bit straight away to the 81 of Mitchell, and then I'm sure right here we'll give it back over to Simon Walton to try and make sure they stay side by side going through the first corner, to make sure that he's basically going to confirm himself in 3rd position. Ian Mitchell is through. Simon Walton then down to 5th position as we start the final lap of the race. 3 seconds is the gap for the race lead. That isn't changing. 2.6 seconds the gap between Baker and Clark. That isn't changing. This all could change in a heartbeat as they head their way back out onto the Wellington Straight. It's been a very interesting start to 2025 here in the Focus Cup, as it's all kind of been blown wide open in the ST category that's been dominated in years past by Lewis Clark. So far this season, not been the case. Lewis Clark won the first race and everyone was thinking, right, here we go again. Back to it, I guess. Then Ian Mitchell said, I don't think so, not so fast, taking victory in the previous race. And this time out through the final corner, it'll be Paniatau to cross the line to win the 2nd race at Silverstone. A bit of a wait for him to cross, but there he comes in the number 29 for first victory of 2025. Paniatau across the line to win here at Silverstone in race number 2. Baker and Clark round out the podium with Ian Mitchell in 4th position. Simon Walton dropping back down to 5th with Gary Mitchell there. And then, of course, it'll be the 22 of Simon Waugh and Simon Watts rounding out the Z-Tech category. It is back-to-back victories, though, for someone. And that, of course, is Mark McCarthy. Mark McCann, who won back-to-back races, one earlier on in the day and then one here as well in relatively comfortable style once that lead had been gathered. Of course, it was 7 Christian and Rickaby in behind. Good drive again from Rickaby and a good attempt to try and hang on around the outside. Might have those rookie plates on, but not driving like a rookie, that's for sure. Yeah, really solid drive though from our race leader, and it is good to see 3 different victories in the first 3 races of the season. Of course, who knows what would have happened had we actually been able to go racing in the 2nd race at Donington Park. What we do know is that we've had an exciting 2 races here at Silverstone, as you would expect, and I'm sure the season ahead is going to prove to show some more exciting racing. Paniatau then 3.3 seconds clear, taking victory for the first time in 2025, with Baker there in second position and Lewis Clark in third position. Ian Mitchell, Simon Walton, Gary Mitchell, and then Simon Moore and Simon Watts round out the ST category, with Mark McCann and Seven Christian inside the top 10 overall, but of course the top 2 in that Z-Tech category, just ahead of Rickaby, who of course is third in the Z-Tech category, but sat in 11th position overall. Paniatau with the fastest lap of the race. That was comfortably faster than anyone else. I think it was about half a second faster than anyone else in that the ST category. Then we can see the rest of the field. So Rickaby third position in the Z-Tech category, then Graham, then Richard Hall, who had some great moves in there, had Langford, Vice, Ballantyne, Winter, then Topley. Disappointing race for Ali Topley there, down in 19th overall, with the 37 of Ian Howard rounding out the top 20. Of course, Mike NG, then Gray, Walton there with FM down there, Cameron FM in 24th position with Pemberton. Sarah Hall, Harrington and Croft didn't take to the start, I believe, so not actually registered as a runner in this race, unfortunately, for the number 55. You can see them rolling their way back into the pit lane to call the end to the weekend for the Focus Cup, but of course they'll be back out racing at Brands Hatch on the 17th of May, so just about a month's time for round number 3 of the championship. Then they'll be racing at Snetterton before they come to Alton Park, one of my favourites in the UK. That'll be on the 28th of June. The 23rd of August, after a bit of a summer break and 2 months off, they'll be racing at Croft before ending the season on the 20th of September at Donington National. Should be a fun season, should be a great ride, and it certainly seems as though the ST category is more wide open than it's been for a couple of years. Paniatau, though, your winner here in race number 2 at Silverstone. We'll see you next time at Brands Hatch.